Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. What if love is tested not by joy, but by fear? What if the past returns to take away Tuna's son, Henry? In simple days, Tuna and Alex find comfort, yet shadows never rest. Can Alex truly protect her when his mother's disapproval still lingers? And when Henry suddenly vanishes, will they reach him in time? This story is not only about orchards and contracts, but about choices between past and present, despair and hope. Stay with us until the end to uncover every secret hidden in silence. Don't forget to subscribe and help us reach 1,000 followers. Your support keeps these stories alive. The morning stretched out in quiet layers of light. The kind of stillness that seems to hold its breath before the day truly begins. Inside the small farmhouse, the child still slept, his tiny chest rising and falling like a fragile tide. Tuna moved softly across the yard, scattering grain for the chickens. Their wings beat against the silence, feathers shimmering faintly in the sun, but her gaze drifted inward, tethered to the sleeping boy she had left behind. She spoke to herself in fragments, simple plans wrapped in unspoken worry. Today she would carry Henry to Mrs. Tang's house, just for a while, so she could go to the market. A small act of survival, one day folding into another. Yet beneath that ordinary rhythm, a heaviness stirred. The weight of solitude pressed against her shoulders. Every decision seemed amplified, every absence dangerous. Her hands brushed the wooden gate, rough with age, and she paused. The farm seemed both sanctuary and cage, a place where the echoes of her past still lingered. Beyond the quiet fences, life demanded more of her than she had to give. Work, money, and the unyielding role of both mother and father. Still, in the stillness of that morning, she allowed herself a breath of fragile hope. She turned back once more to listen. Henry still dreaming, untouched by the storms that awaited. For now, all she could do was move carefully through the day, unaware that the calm would soon fracture, and that love and fear would collide in ways she could not yet imagine. The ring of the phone cut through the quiet like a stone, breaking the surface of still water. Tuna hesitated, then lifted it to her ear. John's voice rushed in, tight and urgent, leaving no space for questions. "A meeting," he said. "Important. Now." His tone carried weight that made refusal impossible. She agreed, though her thoughts lingered on the child she had just laid down to sleep. Later, the cafe smelled of roasted beans and faint rain left on the pavement. A stranger handed her a coffee and pointed upstairs. She found John waiting at a table, papers spread out, his expression etched with anticipation. He spoke quickly, reminding her of the grapefruit shipment they had seen before, his plans already unfolding toward foreign customers. 30,000 fruits, he insisted, ready to move across borders like promises sealed in crates. Across from him, Alex sat in calm resolve. His words, unlike John's, were measured, grounded in the soil he had tended. "Not yet," he explained. "The fruit needed 10 more days. 10 days of sun, of patience, to reach their best. Rushing now would only sour trust before it could grow." The room held a fragile balance. Urgency pressed against restraint. Ambition weighed against wisdom. John's fingers tapped the table, restless, while Alex's gaze held steady. For a moment, Tuna watched in silence, caught between their voices, sensing how business could mirror the quiet battles of the heart. In the decision to wait, she saw a lesson. Sometimes strength is not in grasping quickly, but in holding steady until the time is right. The papers lay between them, edges crisp yet fragile, like trust still untested. Alex slid the contract across the table, his voice even but firm. Prices were written clearly. 30,000 for type A, less for the smaller fruit. No hidden clauses, no shifting ground, only the weight of honesty pressed in ink. John read carefully, his brows drawing together, then softening as he nodded. The pen scratched against the page, a sound quiet yet decisive. 2 signatures, 2 paths now bound. Outside, the orchard waited. Rows of trees swayed in the late breeze, heavy with fruit not yet ready to let go. Alex led John and the newcomer through the shaded paths, pointing with the tenderness of someone guiding a friend through memory. This one, not yet. That one, closer. Another week, perhaps 10 days, and they will shine. His words carried the patience of seasons, the rhythm of soil and rain. They paused beneath a tree where golden skins had begun to show. Sister Lan arrived with a knife, her presence practical and brief. The blade split the fruit, its scent spilled into the air, sharp and sweet. Segments gleamed in the light, translucent, tempting. John bit carefully, then admitted the truth. The flavor was good, but not complete. Not yet the promise he wanted to deliver. For a moment, silence wrapped around them, broken only by the rustle of leaves. Then John smiled, a small gesture of trust, and agreed to wait. Beneath the orchard's canopy, business became something more than trade. It became faith, in timing, in friendship, and in the unseen patience of tomorrow. The afternoon heat pressed down, yet another kind of fire burned within the old woman's chest. Alone in her quiet house, Tuna's former mother-in-law spoke aloud, as though the walls were listening. Bitterness cracked her voice. Her son, Hoang An, was in prison, and in her eyes the blame curved back toward Tuna. Every thought circled the same wound, tightening until it became resolve. Her grandson, Henry. The boy was innocent, yet he was the last thread tying her son to this world. She whispered his name like a secret prayer, her tone hardening with each repetition. She imagined his small hands, his laugh, the way his face must have carried echoes of the man she had lost to the bars of a cell. She convinced herself that Henry belonged not with Tuna, but with her, with family, with blood. That evening she walked to Tuna's house, steps slow but heart racing. The door was locked. Silence pressed against her ears. She waited, muttering, watching the shadows lengthen. No sign of mother or child. Her anger deepened into suspicion. Had Tuna hidden him away, sensing her intent? The thought planted itself like a thorn. At last, she turned back, her decision sharper than before. If persuasion failed, she would use force. Love had twisted into possession. Grief had hardened into resolve. What she could not gain with soft words, she would take with hands that refused to leave empty. In her mind, the plan had already begun. The ink had barely dried on the contract when Alex stepped out into the late afternoon light. A quiet satisfaction lingered. Another partnership secured, another door opened for his orchards. Yet beneath that pride, another pulse beat stronger, the memory of Tuna's smile, the sound of Henry's laughter. Business victories felt hollow, if not shared. The road to the farm stretched ahead, lined with fields glimmering under the sun's descent. As Alex walked, the wind carried the scent of ripening fruit, But it was not harvest he longed for. It was the calm he found in her presence, the fragile comfort of a home that was not yet his, but felt like one. When he arrived, the sight unsettled him. The door stood ajar, swaying gently as if it had secrets to tell. He paused, unease pricking at the edges of his thoughts. Yet when Lytuna emerged, arms carrying simple tasks, the tension eased, though not entirely. They sat together, the day's weariness softening into intimacy. He offered apples, bright and crisp, as though to bring a small piece of joy into her tired hands. Their voices moved between laughter and silence, the air filled with both relief and caution. She spoke of selling at the market, of sending Henry to Mrs. Tang's for care, of daily struggles hidden beneath routine. Alex listened, his heart tightening at her quiet strength. In those ordinary exchanges, he felt the extraordinary weight of connection. Still, behind her words, he sensed the shadows of worry. It lingered in her eyes, as though she knew peace was only borrowed, and the past was never too far from the present. The evening deepened, carrying with it the hush of lamps being lit and crickets beginning their fragile song. Inside the small house, warmth flickered between the clatter of knives and the softness of words left unspoken. Yet when Lytuna turned, her face dimmed with hesitation. She spoke carefully, as if each syllable might break the fragile calm. What if Alex's mother discovered their love? What if the past, the failed marriage, the child, became walls too high to climb? Her fear spread through the room like a quiet storm. Alex paused, the apple knife still in his hand, and looked at her with steady eyes. He did not rush to silence her. Instead, his voice carried the weight of assurance. His mother, he promised, was not an enemy. She already knew Lytuna's hardships, already saw Henry not as a burden, but as a boy worth protecting. He would speak to her. He would convince her. Lytuna lowered her gaze, her breath uneven. To her, hope felt dangerous, like stepping onto ice that might crack beneath her feet. Yet Alex's words pressed warmth against the cold edges of doubt. He reached across the table, his touch quiet but certain. In that moment, love was not the fire of passion, but the persistence of a flame refusing to die. Around them, the night grew heavy with silence, but it was a silence that carried promise. Still, in Lytuna's chest, fear lingered, because promises were fragile, and tomorrow's trials had yet to arrive. The night had settled gently, as though it wished to cradle the farm in silence. Inside, Lytuna bathed Henry while Alex stirred rice in the pot, their voices weaving a fragile rhythm of domestic peace. For a fleeting moment, it seemed the world had given them reprieve. But peace, like glass, shatters without warning. When Lytuna returned, the crib stood empty. The blanket was folded, the air still warm from the child's body, but Henry was gone. Her hands trembled as they reached into nothingness, disbelief slicing through her chest. Alex rushed in, eyes narrowing as the truth struck. This was no accident. Somewhere beyond the walls, the past had returned with cruel hands. Outside, the path lay in shadows. The old woman's vow whispered back like a ghost. If persuasion failed, she would take by force. Now the echo of that promise pulsed in the emptiness of the crib. Lytuna's cry broke the night, raw and sharp, while Alex seized her shoulders, steadying the storm in her. "We'll find him," he said, though fear tightened his throat. They ran into the darkness, hearts pounding against the silence of the fields. Every rustle of grass felt like a clue, every shadow a threat. The chase was not just for Henry, it was for the fragile future they had barely begun to build. And so the question hung heavy in the night air. Would love and courage be swift enough to reach him before the past closed its grip forever?
Tử Na sống bình dị bên con trai Henry, gửi bé cho bà Tăng trông giúp để đi chợ, trong khi Alex cùng bạn cũ John bàn chuyện hợp đồng gửi xuất khẩu, đặt nền móng cho công việc mới. Họ cùng ký kết thăm vườn nên thử quả, xây dựng niềm tin, nhưng trong bóng tối mẹ chồng Tử Na nuôi hận vì con trai mình vào tù. Quyết giành lại Henry bằng mọi giá, bà âm thầm theo dõi, lên kế hoạch bắt cóc cháu Alex tìm đến trang trại, chia sẻ cùng Tử Na nỗi lo tình cảm và hứa sẽ bảo vệ hai mẹ con. Nhưng bình yên chưa kịp lâu, Henry biến mất. Câu hỏi bỏ ngỏ liệu Tử Na và Alex cứu kịp Henry trước hay quá muộn?